Hey there, Gabriel here. Just got done with the writing group, which pretty happy with how I handled the really vague and not vague, but like broad prompts. It was basically write what you want, which like back when I was working at the airport, I was a dispatch supervisor for the janitors, basically the folks who went and cleaned planes. And there was this kid who showed up one day wearing a superhero cape. Like, obviously well out of dress code, but the cape was black as if he was trying to match the dress code. And like, I wrote a good 1,000 or 2 words about how I thought that kid was a hero. Like, facing down the absurdity of this rat utopia deconstruction of civil society with a I don't know, My Hero Academia memes. Like he just started moving. Anyway, I want to try and tell more stories within this community, and I've been kicking around the idea. So back before I got back into Eve Echoes, I was trying to create my own like tabletop RPG rule set to try and capture the same like little fish in a big pond feel, you know, sandbox style, like bootstrap, Dark Souls level difficulty survival nonsense that I feel when I run around in frigates and destroyers and cruisers surrounded by big fish and whales, oligarchs and silliness. And like, some of those rule sets still need a home, and I wouldn't mind creating like a player's handbook for Orby, like an employee training manual type situation with little missions and like external gameplay features, just tabletop nonsense, the same sort of thing you would find in a solo role-playing game. There's a few really good ones out there. 5 Parsecs from Home, I love that one. Iron Sworn, I'm trying to remember. Stargrave pops up. Loner. Dead Belt, I think. I can't remember. What's funny is that's the one I've played the most out of all of these ones I'm listing off. But like, I noticed that NetEase is actually hiring a lead story designer type role. But one of the requirements is you have to speak Chinese. And the most I can manage is Ni Hao and Xi. And neither of those I pronounced correctly, I'm sure of it. The tonal differences trip me up. But, yeah. So, I've got an outline. And I've got 3 or so different mission creation table algorithm things that I'm going to play with, and it'll probably never see the light of day, but I'm going to have fun with it, and I'm going to experiment with it for telling stories along the savage road between Clover ITC, the Freelands, and out into Hex Rex and beyond, Dizzy's Depths and Turnback. Where pirates prowl the night and stories just kind of pop up. Fights when you least expect them. Anyway, let's see. I could kind of break down the structures themselves. So, what I envision for this employee handbook is a real simple class-based RP system but not really even an RP system, just 4 stats and 8 or so resources. Nature of Eve being trade and unfair combat, player run economies and the like. I feel like the exchange of resources should be a key factor in anything involving its, setting. And I borrowed pretty heavily from Orion's Belts, the book, the kind of resources that I had in mind, envisioned. With the first 4 being labor-focused individuals, characters, people, which sucks to, dehumanize, but it's the nature of the setting, especially for like a pseudo-space western corporate intrigue, like small fish, big pond feel. And then experts. And I tore the experts whole cloth from Orion's Belts, the Homeland expansion that I have at the very tail end of the book, talking about how I would try and like create more trade and actual movement along the trade routes, and how I would have players making bets on if they could actually keep their sovereignty over the spaces that they claim to control by adopting pirates, adopting anomalies, and like inviting others to try and fight those anomalies in a sort of PvE capture the flag, meant to create PvP scenarios. I'm really proud of that section, and I can't wait to get to it in the readings. But it seems a little silly to try and expand on it with this player's handbook idea. I got other projects I need to tackle. I'm working on Dead Saint songs. I picked up a real brief work that I'm going to bang out, hopefully. I filled in the details and outlined it, but playing card tarot. If you've got a D6 and a deck of playing cards, you actually have a tarot deck, if you know what you're doing. And I outlined that. It's basically just a reference table. You roll a die, you flip a card, depending on whether it's 1 or 2, 3 or 4, or 5 or 6. It changes the meaning of the card itself, whether it's a red or black, whatever the pips are. Basically, you divide 52 in half, and then you multiply it by 3, and it gives you the 78 that you're looking for-ish. I think. Yeah. So, red and black, which gives the potential for double draws. I kind of like that, but it also feels non-traditional, and I'm old school at heart. But I don't know, maybe once that's done, it's something I could try and incorporate into like mission and story generation. I've always been kind of like interested in story structure and how that works. Joseph Campbell's work, The Hero of the Thousand Faces. You go into Dan Harmon and the Harmon embryo. You need go, search, find, take, return, change. Those 8 steps that kind of encapsulate the nature of stories in general, how stories work. Establish the stakes, raise them, make the payoff, however you want to frame it, whether it's, 3 acts or 8 incremental steps or a series of story beats. The way we structure our information has always been fairly fascinating, and modular and procedural design thrives on structures. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for storytelling within games and gaming that it's very rare to actually find engaged with on a procedural level. You got story generators like Dwarf Fortress or RimWorld that do a great job of capturing kind of what I'm talking about. And you see it occasionally in tabletop, especially for solo tabletop. Like the moment the GM exits the picture, the player has to take on a lot more of the creative responsibility for, oh, look at that. The sky. Beautiful. The player has to take on a lot more of the creative responsibility of establishing the world, even with the expectation of not knowing the world. The whole nature of the fool is knowing exactly where you want to go and exactly the wrong way to get there. And that sort of thing carries on. Like, every time I've seen deify, here's another one. Every time I've seen sort of like reference table translations of symbols into story beats, I've been disappointed. Deify does great prompts after you create the god that you're supposed to be playing as, but the actual creation rules are so bare bone, so sparse. There's nothing there. The rest of the book is fantastic. And like the art is amazing. And probably the best criticism you could ever find for anything is, I wish there was more. But I want to tend away from that and more towards like the Iron Sworn style, where they got bounded accuracy and good, robust statistics to actually create moments of tension that are not opaque, that are not like comparing, thank you, apples and orangutans. Man, that sky. You can't beat the Denver sky, I tell you what. Look at that. The pinks and the blues. Friggin' amazing. Anyway, yeah, percolating another book. She'll probably end up on a shelf, never to see the light of day, but who knows? Maybe I'll write another. I hope you have a good day. Thanks. Bye.